Monona City Council. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Alder DePula.
Here.
Alder Holmquist.
Here.
Alder Moore.
Here.
Alder Wood.
Here.
Alder Rademacher. Here. Alder Bernstein.
Here.
Mayor O'Connor.
Here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And I'd like to welcome Alder Bernstein.
Well, thank you very much. I'm very glad and excited to be here.
Okay, well, I hope this may not be our most exciting meeting, but
That's okay.
it's good to just ease in. So,
It's a good one to work me in.
we have two sets of minutes. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 17th and 18th?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any corrections or additions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes are approved. There are no appearances, there is no public hearing, there is no consent agenda, no unfinished business. There are two items under new business. Item 2A, consideration of Resolution 23-5-2623, award of contract for 2023 street chip seal project, put forth by the Public Works Committee. Dan.
This appears tonight for the first reading at City Council. We'll be talking about it this coming Wednesday at the Public Works Committee meeting. We received bids on April 13th for the chip seal project. It's our annual street maintenance work. We received bids from two contractors, Scott Construction and Farner. And Scott Construction provided a low bid for the chip seal work and the fog seal. The chip seal price came in at $122,108.11. The alternate bid price for fog seal came in at $19,943.77. Included in the packet I have for you the fiscal note, which discusses other street maintenance that we're doing in addition to the chip seal work. I have the bid tab and also a map of the locations that we're doing the chip seal this year. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Anyone have any questions? Doug?
Could you just talk a little bit about how you choose where to use chip seal?
Every odd year, we are required to do a road rating for the Wisconsin DOT. And during that road rating, we assign a rating for all the roads based on the condition of the streets. 1 being very bad, 10 being a good street. Chip seal usually falls in the category of a 7 and a 6, at times a 5. Usually at the high end of the, let's say 9 or 8, that's when you first hit it with crack seal. 7, 6, mainly 7s and 6s, you do a chip seal or a microsurface. At times of 5, when you get down to 4s and 3s and 2s, by the time you're looking at a complete resurface or a reconstruction. So it's during that time when I do the every other year road rating, where I determine a list of streets.
And the goal is to make those 5, 6, and 7s put off the time when they're going to need the more major work.
So if you can chip seal them when they are a 7 and 6, they get bumped back up to an 8, and then depending on the wear and tear of the chip, it brings it back down to the 5 or 6. You can chip seal a second time and sometimes a third time if the integrity of the road still lasts. There are streets that have had multiple chip seals on them, so the idea is to seal the cracks before they become alligator cracks. Once they become alligator cracks, then you have to do reconstruction. So.
I had a question.
Okay.
This came in pretty much under bid. What happens with the difference in cost?
Well, so what I do every year, based on the amount of funding that we have for street maintenance that's approved in the capital budget, I go back to that list that I've created when I do the road rating, and I try to figure out what do we need attention on what locations more. So on that fiscal note, you'll see that we have $183,000 this year for street maintenance. The chip seal takes up about $122,000 of that. We did a fog seal pilot program last year, and we determined that we're going to do that to every road again. So there's almost $20,000 there. We have other needs. You see a massive patching that we're going to be doing on Southtown. That is similar to the patching we've done in Femrite last year. That's a Band-Aid until we can get through to reconstructing that portion of Southtown. So it basically is on a need based on the street, but also if we can preserve the life, extend that life, that's how it makes it onto this chip seal list. So I have a host of treatment options that I can use to help extend the life of the road. But as you can see here, there are things that we do, various types of treatments or various types of options that we do to our roads. The only thing missing here is a mill and overlay. If we had a little bit more money, we would be doing some mill and overlay. I'm due to rate the roads again this year, but there's probably going to be more mill and overlay work next year than chip seal work. It all depends on the funding.
Mark?
Just so you're aware of, so like, this is capital money, it's just borrow different type of money. We can't, if we're under, we can't just transfer back to the operating fund. So what we do, if at the end of the year there's money left over, we would reduce next year's borrowing if we had to, or carry it over for a project or something like that. But it would go through a process like that.
So when you see, let's say, the allocation of 183,000, and you see the bid come at 122, I have a ton of other work that I'm going to use that balance for. That's money I don't want to give back. If I have a lot of balance that I'm giving back in street maintenance at the end of the year, that means that I just didn't do enough roads to get maintained. There are enough roads for us to use that money.
Okay.
So the goal here is to use up all the money. In the operating budget, different story. If we have a balance that we don't need to spend, we'll give that back to ease the burden on the operating budget.
Nancy?
Yeah, I'm assuming since you're recommending Scott not only is a low bid, but that we're very familiar with them and their work, and you feel comfortable with them?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Scott and Farner are the two major contractors for this kind of work in South Central Wisconsin.
Right.
Yep.
So we do.
Anyone else? Okay, that will be on the next agenda after it goes to the Public Works Committee. Thanks, Dan. Next, item 2B, approval of employment agreement for the position of library director, and this was approved, put forth by the Finance and Personnel Committee and was approved in Finance and Personnel earlier this evening. So, Leah?
Mayor O'Connor. This employment agreement, employment agreements have become standard agreements that we do with department head positions. And since Ryan left his position, we didn't have an employment agreement with him the first time around. We decided to do an employment agreement with him this time around. This is a standard agreement. The library director is a little bit of a different position because they get their direction from the library board and they're appointed by the library board, but they are still a city of Monona employee. So standard agreement, and this has been passed by the library board, signed by the library board president, and also by Ryan.
Any questions?
I just have one clarification, Leah. So I think I heard you say this is the first agreement of this kind that we've had ever.
Yeah, that we interim for a library board director?
Correct.
Or,
Correct, for library board director.
I think it might be the first agreement.
For library
for
board,
a
okay.
library board director,
Okay.
yes.
Anyone else, Nancy?
Should have asked this before, but is there any reason not to take this out of order?
Yeah.
I mean,
Leah, is there any reason?
No reason that I know of.
No?
I mean, to take this out of order.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Is there a motion to approve?
Move approval.
Second.
Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, Leah. Okay, well, that takes care of all of our giant agenda for the evening. Next up is the reports of committees, commissions, et cetera. First item is updates and discussion on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. Does anyone have anything to report? Doug?
I was just going to highlight for people the exhibit upstairs in the library on it's from the State Historical Society. on the civil rights movement in Milwaukee in the 60s, and if you're up there, take 5 or 10 minutes just to kind of read some of the panels. It's really pretty informative and very interesting.
Does anyone else have anything to report? Anything to report on sustainability efforts? Teresa?
I'll report that the city has, we've gone through 125 No Mow May signs since this program began. We ordered 75 last year, 50 this year. They're gone. So people just love it. The school called, asked for more. Director Stefani has been really he offered to set aside 4 small pieces of land on city property, which is just wonderful. And NBC 15 reached out to me and to Thor, wanting to interview someone from Monona, because apparently we've gotten a little bit of a reputation in the area. So tomorrow they'll be interviewing James Ty from Clean Lakes Alliance. And then at 6 o'clock in the morning, I'll be down here with a stocking cap and a parka talking to someone. So look for me.
More power to you, yes.
Thank you. Yeah. But I guess the point to make here is that they recognize this as a topic their viewers want to know about, a topic that their citizens, their audience cares about, and I'm really glad that Monona is seen as a leader here. So thanks, everyone.
And what is the rule, Doug, you probably remember this, what is the exact rule about the ordinance change you made last year
Oh, sure,
about the
yeah.
mowing, just so people all know that they won't be cited for their lawn being longer than,
Yeah, is it 8 inches?
8
I want to
inches.
say.
8
is-
inches,
And
yeah.
so
During the month
basically,
of
it just
May.
doesn't apply in May.
Yeah.
okay.
And I think the phrase "No Mow May" is very catchy. You know, it originally started in the UK, and because Wisconsin is roughly the same latitude, we have sort of the same climate, the same rhythm of seasons as they do, and so a professor in Appleton brought it to Wisconsin, and pretty much one of the first areas in the country that really went crazy about it. And we say no mow May, but really the point is, you know, why are we not letting our grass grow at this particular time of year? It's because pollinators like honeybees have been sleeping all winter long. The springtime is here. They're waking up. They haven't eaten in a while. They're hungry. They're looking all around for food. They go to clover and violets and dandelions in our grass, and they really get a lot of nutrition. They fuel up, and they in turn go out and they pollinate anywhere between 2/3 and 75% of all flowering fruits, vegetables, nuts in the United States. They don't charge us for it. So there's an economic benefit, right? Can you imagine creating a machine to do the job that they do for free? So in many ways, there's a real elegance and beauty and simplicity, and there's also some intelligence if we just respect it. And so if you're a person that really loves that beautiful green, lush golf course lawn, it is beautiful. But if that's what your yard looks like, then there's no real benefit to not mowing it because you don't have the pollinator food in your grass. But if you have a lawn that's like mine, which is very biodiverse, it makes sense to let those flowers grow. So.
Oh. Anyone else have any sustainability items to report? Okay, then we will move on to committee reports. Alder Holmquist.
Let's see, I'll let Doug do CDA on, there was no public safety meeting this last month. And then upcoming, there'll be a ZBA meeting, but it's shifting to the 25th if I have it correct. It's normally on the 18th of May, but it's going to be shifted to the 25th. That's it.
Alder Moore.
The Transit Commission met its usual time this last month. I was unable to attend the meeting because I was out of town, but they did meet and began reviewing the data, and we're going to be meeting again hopefully this next week, having a work group session because it's a lot of data to crunch through, but I want to extend my gratitude to the committee as a whole, and especially Addie, who is a data queen and who definitely strutted her stuff as a PhD in data queen at the last meeting, and has been, the whole committee's been extraordinary along the way. So we're hoping to continue to drill down on that data, and that data will help us as we continue to weigh the options for Monona. What I would say is, in general, is that the overall, first of all, we ended up with about 900 respondents, which is extraordinary, and I want to thank the community for that. And second, the community's pretty evenly split between those people that think having Madison Metro here is great and those people that don't think it's so great. So, but we obviously collected a lot more data than that, which we need to look at. I would just say that, as we've said all along, it's the Transit Commission's responsibility to do what we feel is best for Monona. It wasn't a referendum. It was a survey to find out what people needed, where they needed it, how they needed it, et cetera. And so we'll continue to work on the data, and no decisions certainly will be made probably in the next month or two. But just wanted to extend my thanks to the Commission. Other than that, I have nothing to report.
If I could jump in,
Teresa?
sorry. I
Yeah.
just want to really say thank you to this commission, because I know you've also done a lot of research into population trends, transportation trends, all these things that are coming down the pike in the next several decades. And you're trying very hard to position Monona in an advantage, give us an advantage. And you're taking care of the city by doing so. So thank you.
Alderwood.
The CDA met last Tuesday, discussed the Walter Wayne project. That's the one on Monona Drive, and also the Whitehorse property, 1208 East Broadway. And had a good discussion in closed session about both, and I think, gave some direction to staff, and we'll see. I think they're both moving forward. So, MPO meets Wednesday night. One thing we'll be looking at is allocating another $7 million to the the Bus Rapid Transit, additional money additional federal funding that was recently announced. So that'll increase that from $103 million to about $110.5 federal funding for that project. And we'll also be talking about the carbon reduction grants, one of which is a Monona LED project. So right now the staff recommendation is to fund all the LED projects that were proposed instead of trying to concentrate it, so which is good for Monona. It looks like, so we'll see, but it looks like we'll probably get some funding for that. And I think that's it.
Okay. Alder Rademacher.
No meetings since our last, I have had no committee meetings since our last council meeting. Just a reminder, though, from community media, when we do meet this next coming week, we'll be talking about more ways of promoting that new phone app, Monona Go. So if you haven't looked at that, give it a chance, download it on your phone. It's very slick. And from sustainability, I would just say that we don't yet have the statistics from the e-cycling event. We're hoping to have those, but we'll have them next time. So.
Okay. Alder Bernstein, I don't know if you've had a chance to meet any of your committees.
I have not met any committees, but I did go on a ride along with one of the police officers.
Oh, okay.
Trying to get my feet wet in terms of public safety. So the chief was nice enough to hook me up with Jesse Maschai, and I spent a couple hours with him driving around, mostly along Broadway and back and around the Beltline and back. But I learned a lot just in the conversations we had, and I came away with the feeling that there is a high sense of morale with the police force. They're very thankful for the leadership that they have. They really love their new badges, so they're proud of wearing those. And the Monona, the police force, has a reputation, not only with other police forces, but with people in general. So, what did I say? A good reputation. A proud reputation. A reputation that serves them well in terms of defending the city, protecting the city, and in terms of working with other partners. So that was really exciting. We didn't really pull anybody over, maybe once for expired tags, but nothing, no ticket was issued, so that was not the highlight of the trip.
I'm always on him about issuing the tickets.
Well, I thought it was a form of justice. So I'm looking forward to maybe doing that again. But there's no meeting scheduled for this month, I don't believe. I did talk a little bit with Ryan about the library board, and he asked if I was interested in signing up for a program they have started. They needed a third person to be part of the team about embracing equity. So I'll learn more about that on May 16th when I have my first library board meeting. I'm also scheduled to have a Zoom call with Representative Jimmy Anderson. I got a letter from him saying, congratulating me on becoming a new alder, and he thought it would be nice if we had a face-to-face digitally. So hopefully I can suss out some issues or whatever the talk is about shared revenue. I know that's probably the biggest item for the city on the state budget. But in general, just have a conversation.
Okay. Cool. Alder DePula.
Let's see. Not much. I have new committees, and parks didn't meet. So the only thing is on Public Works, we're taking up the street renaming Wednesday. So or Tuesday. Wednesday. Yep. So Wednesday, and then that's really all I've got right now. I missed the last housing meeting because I had a work event that I had to do. So that's about it.
Chief?
So much for that short meeting, because here I am.
The answers are yes, yes, no, no, and yes.
Well, thank you to the community, all of you. Some of you have advertised or donated in support of our community events, one of which happened a couple weekends ago. Cops and Bobbers, our first inaugural event, which was well attended. It actually snowed on the 22nd, but the kids were brave. We had a lot of first-time fishers, and so a lot of smiles from a lot of kids, and a lot of smiles from our cops too. So I tell people all the time that we love doing this sort of stuff. We think it's beneficial for the community to engage with its police department, but selfishly, I love it when my cops and dispatchers do this sort of stuff too, because you really see sort of their personalities shine and flourish as they interact with members of the public outside of a complaint or handling a crash or something like that. So that's good. We hope to continue to do that. We have great partners with Wisconsin DNR who participated, made sure we were abiding by all the conservation laws. The Dane County Sheriff's Office assisted their Marine and Trail unit came out, and McFarland Police. So it was great, well attended. We had about 20 or so children that were there with parents, some not, and trusted us with their little ones. They all returned safely, no hooks and fingers or anything like that. So it was great. And then at staff today, our city attorney Cole pointed out that today was Law Day. So I had to do some research, learn something every day. According to the American Bar Association, Law Day, held annually on May 1st, is a national day set aside to celebrate the rule of law. Law Day provides an opportunity to understand how law and the legal process protect our liberty, strive to achieve justice, and to contribute to the freedoms that all Americans share. So I thought that that was very appropriate, that he pointed at, well, he wanted us to pat him on the back. I thought that it was very appropriate for him to bring that up. You know, we've had, we're a part of that system, of course, just a small part, but an important part of law enforcement, a part of that system. In a recent press release, I mentioned pleading with persons in the community, some who, for a variety of reasons, may think about doing something silly, such as fleeing from the police or running from the police, pleading with individuals who find themselves in those situations to pause and think and to stop. I continue to do that, as we had an officer last week who was nearly pushed into traffic as a result of a traffic stop on Monona Drive, based on complaints we had gotten about speeders on Monona Drive. So we actually stopped a vehicle going 22 over on Monona Drive, and where the stop took place was on the on-ramp to the Beltline westbound. And the individual who we now know and are still actively looking for he did pull out into traffic, pushing the officer reacted by having to move into the lane of traffic. Unfortunately, your officer is okay, but again, I just sort of shake my head after looking at that body-worn camera and talking to our local reporter, Tony Galley, about that incident and saying, you know, Tony, what I really want the message to be, if you can help me out here, is that people just think twice. As Alder Bernstein mentioned, so glad that you had that opportunity. And of course, as I mentioned to all of you, that's afforded to you all as well, and members of the public can reach out to us if they're interested to do a ride along. But you know, your officers have a lot of discretion. When to cite, when not to cite, when to arrest even. There's only really a handful of laws that restrict our discretion in terms of arresting or citing, etc. But generally speaking, we have a good deal of discretion. How we hone into that and making sure that that discretion is used wisely is that we hire the right people, and we continue to train and give them experiences and show them and demonstrate differences in our community and why folks react a certain way, or why persons who, for example, look like me may have a different reaction when they interact with law enforcement. Not always, but sometimes. That they take that into consideration, that they understand their own personal unconscious bias that exists, and they take that into consideration. So we do write warnings, and I don't know the circumstances there, but I trust Officer Moshek's judgment in writing that warning. We want people to know, I do, that your officers have a lot of compassion. Some of them don't. Grew up with in abusive homes growing up as children, and so they've experienced domestic abuse in their homes, and so they can empathize and understand that. Some grew up with very little money, so they understand homelessness or being close to homeless, your chief included. Some understand making poor decisions as kids because you don't have a fully developed brain. We're also pretend to be scientists too, and we understand and appreciate the science behind brain development. And so we get it when people, quote unquote, freak out. What we want people to understand is that we're go-getters. We're good at what we do. And I promote that often. But we also have a lot of compassion. And so I'd rather you stick around, deal with it, talk it out, and let us work with you. Whatever you did to get yourself in a little trouble, we have a good deal of discretion. We can give you a court date. We can not issue a ticket or make an arrest. There's lots of options. So I mentioned that because about, say, 3 hours ago, we had yet another incident in which somebody took off on us, responding to a domestic disturbance in which people believe that a young lady was being battered at the Kohl's department store in our community here. And so when a supervisor and an officer go on scene to make contact with the subject who's in the vehicle, that individual took off. Of course, given the day, we didn't pursue long, we terminated it. But I need to do a better job of getting my message across. I'm not going to get to everyone, but do a better job of getting my message across that it's better for you, better for this community, that you stick around. Just talk to our cops, just have a conversation. We're good people, so, and we trust that you are too. So on that, law day, I just wanted there to be a little discussion on that and to point out our little role in what is a very important system here. Some of you are attorneys or have that experience, and so I thought I'd like to thank, it's rare, but I'd like to thank an attorney also, and the work that attorneys do for our justice system here. No, but I really appreciate Attorney Cole. He's not here, and I'll tell him and point out this recording later that I actually talked some really good things about him, but he's provided a lot of guidance to me as a newer chief. You know, we have a big deal of responsibility in law enforcement, and I do as the chief here. And so I like to think of ourselves as an asset more than a liability. Bill does his part, Attorney Cole does his part to remind me of instances in which I'm creeping over to that liability side and making sure that we all are in compliance with law and in what's right. So that's it. And so I'm here for questions. It's been a while since I came before you and actually spoke. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions for the chief? Nancy?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment since it's Law Day. So I couldn't help, like I'm sure everybody else, following the number of mass shootings in particular in the last week over tiny things, the very tiny things that you're talking about, right? You pull somebody over in a car or you go to the wrong door. Or whatever it is, and I was just really struck last night by the fact that, you know, the person who killed so many people in Texas is still on the loose, and since that incident, which was only a week ago, or less than a week ago, there's been 10 other mass shootings. Mm-hmm. 10. I mean, I was just, frankly, I just continue to be blown away by that, and I'm particularly sympathetic to those of you that are in the law, because I know that, particularly with things like AR-15s, you know, I think the vast majority of police forces in this country feel pretty strongly that they're out-armed, outmaneuvered, and it just, and I'm just particularly appreciative of, like I said, particularly because there just seems to be this run of like totally absurd reasons, you know, why those are occurring. I mean, you know, to think that you could go next door to your neighbor and ask them to stop shooting because it's keeping your baby up at night and end up with an execution-style murder is just important. So anyway, I just want to thank you and thank the force again.
Thank you. I think about a month ago I mentioned how we seized an AK-47. Mm-hmm. And so you're right, there's some pretty vicious weaponry in the hands of wrong people, and I'm all for responsible gun ownership, but we have a problem.
Yeah.
So we will be, thank you for noting that as well. I'm going to be doing a PSA in connection with our partners at the Madison Police Department, and as it relates to the Memorial Day Parade and you know, the festival. Once it gets closer, we'll do another one. But you know, you're going to see, and I mentioned this to some of you who are returning council members, you're going to see officers with slung AR-15s. Two reasons. Number one, that's a weapon we need to have readily handy and available to us in the event, heaven forbid, we have an event where we need to stop somebody from distance, or a threat from distance, or a vehicle from distance. That's some of the feedback that we've received ever since the Nice, France incident. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. We sort of thought in terms of, okay, what do we need to do more to prevent that happening? And we, of course, since then, Waukesha, tragically, have had incidents like that. And so I've attended conferences in which the Waukesha police chief was there debriefing law enforcement, Wisconsin law enforcement about that incident, and that, of course, was one of the things that was brought up. So I get the sensitivity for those who are not maybe comfortable with that. I grew up in Chicago. Guns were like, stay away, right? I mean, in fact, darn near outlawed based on some of the laws in Chicago at the time. But in the hands of people who are trying to protect you, I think that that's where I need to do more work to making sure the community is comfortable with seeing its police department out there. Unfortunately, I wish we didn't. I wish we were like London, England, where we were bodies and have to have guns on our hips. But we do, because we own more guns than the rest of the world combined as far as gun ownership in this country. So we will be out there with slung AR-15s, Madison as well. They agree that unfortunately the time is now to do that. Not every cop out there, but there will be cops strategically placed that are just going to be the highway, but you'll notice that they're going to have their rifles slung for out of duty to protect the community. So we're making some changes. We're having discussions. We're paying attention to things, just as all of you are paying attention to what's happening in the rest of the country with mass shootings. But it doesn't have to be a mass shooting. We've had incidents, as you know, close to home. We're still looking for a young child that is a Monona resident that attends Monona schools, who was taken by his father after probably he's a suspect in a homicide case in the city of Madison. So this, not on my watch. You've heard me say that before, but I need to make sure we're prepared and that we're aware of all these horrific events that are happening. And so we're going to do a PSA not only to talk about some of the preparations we're doing in the police department, but the see something, say something. You will never hear me, an officer or a dispatcher, annoyed with somebody calling something in because it looks out of place or looks suspicious. Let us vet that out. Let us deal with it. We'd rather have that phone call or have somebody point something out. And there's some things where we won't attend to or we won't address. My staff has learned about more and more about unconscious bias as it relates to suspicious activity or suspicious persons, and we will simply not go to things if we deem that it is not unlawful or not suspicious. We have had people call in and say, this person is out of place because they look like X. We have not gone, rightfully so. But we want people to call in. Let us make that determination. So thank you all for bringing that up. It's important. Sad, but important information.
Rick?
I heard in the previous meeting that one of your officers is going to be deployed for a year. How will that affect your ability to do what you want to do?
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. One of our officers is in the Guard, and her unit has been called up to travel abroad. I'm not sure if that's public yet where they're going. I'm sure it will be soon. It leaves all of us, her work family, very anxious, and we're very appreciative that she's continuing to serve. As it relates to your police department, we will be down one officer for an entire year based on that. And so we're going to have to do some maneuvering around. Hopefully, we'll be able to train up our part-time officer who's going to be graduating the police academy here on the 19th, get him through field training, and then try to offset some of the costs as it relates to vacancies. But again, that's a part-time position, so we have to watch out how many hours a week that officer works, et cetera. But also contractually, according to the association's contract with the city, they get first dibs on overtime. So we might run into, I'll be talking to our finance director and the mayor, just keeping them up to speed. So far, the latest report, proud to say, hope this continues, Mr. Finance Director and Mayor and all of you, that our quarterly report, we're below that 25% number. We've made some changes in-house anticipating that this might happen. And we are fully staffed, so that helps. So in essence, we're only down one versus being down 2 or 3. So we'll have to replace that person with some overtime and doing some shift maneuvering and roster maneuvering to switch somebody who's sort of on a day swing shift to the night shift where this officer worked prior to her deployment. So we wish her well. We're going to be representing the city at her going away deployment ceremony at the, I think it's at the Armory here in Madison. It's scary, but she's going to do just fine. It's just all of us nervous folks that, one of our loved ones is being deployed overseas.
Mhm.
We thank her for her service.
Anyone else? Doug?
I just wanted to observe, one, I'd be careful, cautious about giving Cole too much public approbation, but I also wanted to note that this is International Workers' Day as well, which that was key in the 8-hour workday movement.
Speaking of overtime,
Right.
unions are
Nice. Well done. Yeah.
It's also the date when families are making their first payment to all the universities that their kiddos have.
Oh.
May 1st.
Gee, how do you know that?
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, Aline, did you have anything to report?
Yeah, just the assessment letters went out last week, Wednesday, so people should be getting them in the mail if they haven't already. If you haven't got it, in-person open book is this Thursday. You can make that appointment online. And then over-the-phone open book is available all month. So if you aren't able to go this week Thursday, don't fret. You can still get in over the phone.
When's board review?
Board of Review is June 7th at 6 p.m.
So open book is where you can talk to an assessor about how your assessment was determined.
Correct.
Correct.
And that's it.
All right, Mark?
No report.
I just had a couple things. Patrick was not able to make it to the housing meeting, but I did last week, where we discussed the Dane County Housing Task Force, focusing on affordable housing for the most part, but it was for the first time we were brainstorming different strategies that they're considering including in the plan, which I think our last meeting is August or September that they're hoping to put out this report. So we spent most of the night doing that. The San Damiano survey is going to be up through the weekend, so please, if you haven't taken it, and if you want to let anybody else know, share the website. It's on the homepage of the mymonona.com. Just as a reminder for people, I think I'm going to ask Leah if she could send out another post about it. We just like as much input as we could have. And then I'm just going to mention this. It's one of our committees, it was Parks, changed their start time to the middle of the afternoon a month or two ago, I guess. And now we have another committee that it wants to talk about changing their start time. And I just would like to say, I think we need to be careful. I know that staff would rather have their evenings off, but on the other hand, we're going to be limiting people, I think, available for some committees. For instance, I was not able to appoint Alder Rademacher to Parks because she can't make 3 o'clock in the afternoon meetings. So I'm just a little bit concerned if this gets to be kind of a thing, that we're going to be limiting ourselves as to who might be able to make meetings. And I know, I think it's also could be a diversity issue as well, because not everybody has the flexibility to take off time in the middle of the afternoon to come to a meeting. And I don't think everybody's necessarily considering the middle of the afternoon, but just something to consider as your committees are.
I would just add to that, Mayor, that it also would is potentially limiting for public participation,
Right.
which we all encourage in meetings.
Exactly.
Because people have to work and they can't necessarily take off from work to jump in on Zoom or show up at a meeting.
Right,
Yeah.
that too. So I think these are all things just to keep in mind if the subject comes up in your committees. So, Doug?
We haven't actually met yet. It's at 3 o'clock on the second Wednesday now. So we'll see. I mean, I look at it, it's a trial to see how it works. I think there's some thought that for some people who can do a Zoom appearance in the daytime, that's actually easier than if they have small kids at home, trying to make an evening meeting.
Sure.
So we'll
Trade-offs.
see how, but it's definitely a change. Although there are other committees that meet a little bit later in the afternoon, but this is new. Yeah.
Yeah, I think 4:30,
4
4 o'clock might be
License-
license
ORC
review
meets
might be the earliest.
Patrick,
Anyway, something to keep in mind. Patrick?
And I think that, we have, like you mentioned, we have to be aware that if it is something that will draw public interest, that we will have to change that schedule. In order to change. Yeah,
that's the plan.
yeah, that's the plan. So we did discuss that if it's normal housekeeping stuff, it's not that big of a deal, but if it's something like the pickleball stuff, per se, that would need to be done in the evening, yes.
But people do get used to meeting at a certain time, and then they
Oh.
think that's when the meeting is, so you'd have to do a lot of publicity, I guess. But I'm just thought I'd mention it, so. We have one appointment tonight. Mitchell Weishoff is the hotel representative to the Tourist Commission. This is something that we're required by state law to have one representative of the hotel industry. So is there a motion to approve his appointment?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.